We presented this morning on the Smoking Survivors campaign and the role of campaigns, and I personally just have to thank you both, because I've never met two people who are more committed to encouraging people to quit and, you know, to end smoking. But I think also, really importantly, you represent things from a smoker's perspective, and I think that's the real thing that you've brought to this campaign. So I think just firstly, a massive thank you for everybody in this room who's seen the campaign, and on behalf of the public. I think we'll just play the TV ads. Just, you know, I think a lot of us have seen them, but I think it's important.
Every day, I wish I could turn back the clock to the first time I picked up a cigarette. Telling your children you have cancer from smoking is the worst thing in the world. It's petrifying. There's a million things. Your priority is your family, but then there's the fear of how it's going to end. They had to break my ribs and then cut into my lung. My daughter had to care for me night and day. She was just 15. I made a video to say goodbye to the girls. I don't think I'd be here if I still smoked, but I thank God I'm alive and I'm with my family. Don't wait until it's too late to stop smoking.
Make a fresh quit at freshquit.co.uk.
I literally would wake up one eye open and then need the cigarette. I was so addicted, so addicted. My kids' reaction with that was they thought they were going to lose their mum. What's hot? Idiot. I lived with a tube up my nose, down my throat and into my tummy. Smoking tried to take my life and my health, but now I've got my life back. Keep trying. You've got to keep trying to quit. It's worth it.
Make a fresh quit at freshquit.co.uk.
Sorry, Cathy, I know this is hard, but how brave you have to be to do that. I mean, it's just phenomenal. But I'll start, Sue, just kind of, you know, you've got involved in a campaign. 1 minute, you know, you've gone through what you've gone through, and then next you're the face of a TV ad. How's that happened? What's the motivation to be out there and doing this?
I think the motivation was I didn't want people to go through that. And I keep saying that all the time. You know, so many people are addicted to smoking. It's not a lifestyle. And I talk about these sort of campaigns. We've got to keep running them. An odd few campaigns is not enough. So when I was trying to pack in, I call it the devil and the angel. So the angel used to say, I've got to pack in, got to pack in. Devil used to go, no, look at that woman at 80. She's still survived. She's still there. So there's the devil talking, and that's the addiction talking. I need the government to understand that with addiction we need support. And that's why I'm involved in this, because I want to talk as a person that's gone through it, as a family that's gone through it. We need help, or they need help. And they need help, not just for the first quit that they feel, for the second quit, the third quit, because I tell you, it took me loads of times to quit. And in the end, I got cancer and I had to quit. I don't want people to get cancer to have to quit. That's why I'm involved.
Cathy, how have you found the experience of actually sort of, you know, being somebody who's out there encouraging people to quit smoking and the effect that's had?
Watching the advert's really difficult, as you can tell. You're putting your personal experience out there for everyone to see. I think for me in the advert, I had my daughter at my side the whole time. For me, it was the guilt of what I was putting them through. You grieve for the pain you've inflicted on them. It is lifestyle as well as an addiction. Because I smoked, my children thought it was acceptable to smoke. I'm happy to say they've all quit. And when you were talking about campaigning and how the manufacturers, they did this little cut and how glamorous it was. Trust me, if you look at my body and the scars and the fact that it's misshaped and I can't wear the clothes I want to wear, there's nothing glamorous about smoking. and work with Amanda. And Amanda asked me to get involved, and I'm really privileged to have the opportunity. And we also want to go for lifting the age restriction to 21, because I think when you're a child, you're invincible. And I think by the time you get to 21, you're making a more informed, mature decision, and I don't think anyone would choose to smoke.
When you are smoking, how difficult is it sometimes to quit and just putting it off?
Oh, massively, massively. And that, I think someone in this room today said, we have to support people who keep coming back because it is an addiction and they get so far down the line. And I always say week 3 is the difficult point, because you think, oh, I've nailed it, and then you just think, oh, I can just have one. And no, you can't. You're back to square one. So you have to keep trying.
I know one of the things that's been mentioned this one is culture change, and for me, one of the big culture change things is shifting the responsibility away from people who smoke and onto the industry. And I know that came up with you, Cathy, when we first met. It was, I did it to myself, and it's kind of, no, you didn't. It's because you get hooked as kids by an industry that's pretty cynical. I mean, Sue, what do you think we need to be? I know we mentioned the levy this morning. I mean, how hard do we have to push for that?
We've got to really push for it. And again, when I first started with youth, I blamed myself for what my kids went through. And then I looked into addiction, educated myself into addiction, and I realised it wasn't my fault. It was the tobacco companies that actually glamorised it, told you it was okay to smoke. A Lucille Ball advert actually says, smooth on the throat. Wasn't smooth on my throat. So there's adverts like that at the tobacco industry. They knew what it was doing. They were given the license to kill. And it's about time we took that license away from them.
Totally agree with what Sue says, and I think the NHS is under a massive strain caused, and smoking, I know myself for the time frames and the doctors and nurses who were incredible and obviously clearly saved my life, hopefully. And it's still ongoing for the rest of my life now. Every 3 months I have to go and visit a hospital and have scans, which are very expensive and cost the NHS a massive amount of money. Why are the tobacco companies not paying something towards that? So, yeah, I totally agree with everything that Sue said.
In terms of just the reaction from people, people in the community, I mean, I know, Cathy, you said people actually have come up to you and said, how did he do it? How did he quit? What tips have you got? I mean, that must be a nice feeling that you're making a difference.
Incredibly proud of the difference it's made. And someone came up to me the other day and said, because you do tend to keep these kind of things very private, what your family's suffering and everything like that, and you don't want to put your family through that public display either. And I did get their consent of all of this before we went ahead with this journey. But somebody come up to me and said, do you know that girl on the telly? She looks exactly like you. I went, because that is me. She went, well, I've stopped smoking because of that. And I got a really massive sense of pride.
Fantastic. I think from the figures that we saw this morning, I mean, you talked about thousands of people, and Sue, what's it been like for you?
I think actually reading the Facebook comments, so many people have taken on board what has the adverts and that, and so many people are actually watching it and they're saying they're going to quit, and they are tagging family on, and I have been answering them because you know what, they need the support. I can't reiterate, they need support. But yeah.
What would you say? I mean, I think the whole aim is we want to tell the story of people in the North East and quit smoking. We want more people like you out there on the TV, encouraging people to quit and telling those stories. What would, just to wrap up, what would you say to someone who kind of thinks, wow, I'm not sure I want to be out there and put myself out there? What would you say?
I would say that I think the more people who stand up and say how smoking has affected their lives, their families' lives, because obviously there's the children that's been left behind from people who sadly haven't had the the outcomes that we've had. And if everyone stood up and said, I have never met a single smoker, seriously, who hasn't said, I wish I could stop. I haven't met a single smoker who hasn't said that. So they all want to quit. They just need the tools and they need the support, and we need the funding to be able to help them.
I'd say to anybody that wants to be part of the campaign to have Patlin, it's really worth doing. You get a great self-satisfaction that you're helping people. And you know what? Real people's stories is really important. It's no use a professor standing there, never smoked before, and saying, this is what you should do, or this is what you should do. It's about real people's addiction, real people's stories. It's worth doing. You get a lot of self-satisfaction. If I can help, and I know through the Facebook so many people are trying, so I know my story is helping people.
And then one final thing from me. I have a 13-year-old granddaughter. I know I don't look old enough. But, and very importantly, she's gone to school and she tells all her friends, that's my grandma.
Wow.
And I think they all can then, because obviously she was upset when she thought I was going to die, they can all see that the effect that smoking has, and they nag their parents too. So yeah, real life people really do count.
I think the biggest round of applause of the day